Let's talk about fear, both the kind that comes from the world around us and the kind that bubbles up within. Outwardly, we worry about losing our jobs, our social status, or getting on the boss's bad side. Inwardly, we fear failing, dying, being alone, not being loved, or feeling hopeless. These worries, whether they're out there or in here, weigh us down. Fear can lock us up inside. When we're afraid, our minds get cloudy. We become less sensitive to life's subtleties, and that dullness can lead us to violent thoughts or desperate behavior, like grasping for anything to worship or cling to. Finding a way to be free from this grip of fear is one of our most urgent tasks. A lot of our fears actually spring from the same survival instincts we see in animals. Think about it. Animals get aggressive, and so do we. They like comfort, and so do we. They form packs or herds. We form clubs, clans, and nations. We have inherited a big chunk of our brain chemistry from animals, and that's just a scientific fact. A crucial question is, can we step beyond these instincts we share with animals? Can we also break free from the cultural rules and social habits that shape our thoughts and keep us stuck? We have to be free of fear before we can discover a truly new way of living. It's perfectly natural to protect yourself when you're physically threatened. You need food, clothing, and shelter. That's not really fear, it's common sense, but fear in the psychological realm, the stuff that haunts us at night, is what really ties us in knots. Take nationalism and religion, for example. They split the world into separate groups and cause conflict. We get stuck in our little corners, our own beliefs, our own flags, and that separation fuels anxiety and tension. Meanwhile, the real problem, our shared humanity, gets pushed aside. All the while, fear grows. Often we don't even realize exactly when and what we're afraid of. If we do sense it, we may not know how to deal with it, so we run. But the further we try to escape, the bigger our fear becomes. Think of fear as always tied to something that happened, or something that might happen. You're scared you'll lose your job next month, or that you'll get hurt again, like you did before. And most of that fear is driven by thought. Our thinking is the real spark that lights the fire of fear. You imagine what could go wrong tomorrow, or recall something terrible from the past, and suddenly you're afraid. Maybe you had a painful illness once and you're terrified of going through it again. Or you remember feeling utterly alone before, and you don't want that loneliness back. Thought is also behind our craving for pleasure and our dread of losing it. We think about a wonderful experience we had, and we want to repeat it. The more we think about it, the stronger our desire grows. On the flip side, if we think about something awful that happened, the more our fear of it returning intensifies. We do need thought to do our daily tasks. Writing, talking, working, none of that can happen without thinking. But when the mind drags you into the future or the past, replaying old hurts or conjuring up worst-case scenarios, that's when fear takes hold. So the question is, can the mind learn to stop carrying old baggage or future anxieties when it's not needed? Notice what happens when you give your full attention to something, absolutely, wholeheartedly. In moments of deep engagement, there's no little me in the back of your head, critiquing or worrying. You're just there, completely present. When you're completely in it, there's no separate observer left to be afraid. That constant voice, the inner commentator, quiets down. Without this mental chatter, there's no mental space for fear to take root. This isn't about becoming empty or switching off your brain entirely. It's about questioning the habit of letting thoughts run wild and then discovering a more spacious way to be. When we depend on external things, people, objects, ideas, to give us our sense of worth or safety, fear grows. This dependence comes from not understanding ourselves, from feeling poor in spirit. If we start to watch our own reactions and habits, we might see where that dependence begins and how it blossoms into fear. Because fear has so much to do with our memories of pain or pleasure. Set in motion by thought, it thrives in the shadow of the past. But real freedom in thinking happens when we see that past clearly here in the present, recognize it for what it is, rather than letting it sneak back in and shape our future. In this honest awareness, we start to see how the I, the sense of me and mine, is the root of most fears. And if we can let that little I loosen its grip, our fears lose their power over us. When that happens, fear can no longer chain our minds, and a new kind of freedom, a fearless way of being, can finally unfold.